Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. I am Jenne Gallagher, and I am here with Denise, our menopause mentor.
Hello,
Hi, Denise.
hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Snowing.
That's fantastic. It's
Oh,
Minnesota. It's supposed to be snowing. But it
it was
wasn't it like
52
50
degrees
degrees the other
here.
day?
It was 52 degrees yesterday. So
Yeah,
I guess we are still in winter.
right. Exactly. So, what are we talking about today?
Today I am here to poo-poo your morning routine.
Ah,
In general, that's what I'm here to do. Not that it's a
or
bad thing. If you have something that works for you, great,
mhm,
right? But what I find is we're looking for like the perfect routine, right? And it becomes kind of and I say this because I have been this person. I get up in the morning and I have to meditate for 30 minutes and then I have to do my journal, write in my journal. What are the three things that I'm grateful for? And how do I want to show up for today? And, I got to get my workout in at 7:30, not 7:35. It's got to be at 7:30. But if I wake up at 7, that's a little rough, right? But
mhm,
then I don't forget, I got to do my stretching and my yoga. And if I got all that done, it's noon,
right.
right? So then I'm feeling I'm behind all day long, right?
Mhm.
So instead of making me feel empowered, now could I do this on a Saturday? Absolutely. Sunday, probably. Um, but instead of feeling empowered and excited, um, like I said, I was starting to feel like I was behind even before the day starts. And I think as midlife women, midlife and beyond, right? We're always kind of feel like that,
Mhm.
right? There's always something that we should be doing, right? And then we feel guilty if we miss a piece of it. And to be honest, with all of doing all of that stuff, I was exhausted before breakfast because if you notice, there was no eat breakfast in that list. So that was
Right.
kind of an afterthought, which I know better.
Right. And I
So
think they think that the other piece too, it's not just that yes, you're missing some things, or yes, it feels like it's already noon and you're feeling behind. There's this emotional attachment that we have, and I'm more probably speaking for myself, of if you don't do it, you failed.
I think you are not alone on that one, my
Right.
friend, because I know I feel like that. I have felt like that so many times in my life. And about things that really don't matter. I mean, nobody's going to die if I don't do my 30-minute meditation, which to be quite honest, you know, 30 minutes was kind of pushing it for me, even when I was doing it.
Hmm. Right.
Right. And
Or the thing is that or the other piece is if I don't continue to do this, I'm going to lose the habit and then I won't do it at all. It's like it's this all or nothing attitude
mhm.
and asking for a friend.
Right. And it starts to, we start to fall into that, perfectionism challenge, which is easy to do for women.
Hmm.
We've always been expected to do certain things. We know we hold certain roles. Um, but we can also, I think, in this stage in life, we can also challenge those roles and be in control of them, right? So with these morning routines, they were meant to actually create space and create peace, but they're actually bringing us more pressure and stress. And that's where the perfectionism is kicking in. Oh,
Hmm.
and not only that, and I'm a big list person. I'd like to be able to check things off.
Hmm.
I'm trying to recover from that.
Or
I'm doing
yeah. So what's the solution? How do we Oh, for people that are watching Zoom, the camera keeps zooming in and zooming out, and I apologize. So whatever. But deal with it. I'm having issues dealing with it too. So is that perfection piece, I
Zoom just has
guess.
a mind of its own lately.
Oh my word. Upgrades, upgrades. Anywho, So what's the how do we find that happy coexistence between these are the things that we need to do, or these are the things that I need to do that make me feel better versus these are the things that I have to do because I have to do them.
Right. So in midlife and beyond, right, we're still balancing careers, families, aging parents, relationships, our continually changing body, right? Our sleep is messed up in during periods. Our energy, it could change. Like I'm one of these people. I have energy between 7:30 and about 3. At about 3 o'clock, I kind of need to start shutting it down because it just doesn't work, right? Hormonal shifts, all of these things we're experiencing. And these are things we experience for the rest of our lives. Like, everything in life is cyclical. So what we really are looking for, we're looking for these, give it a name. I don't want to say tasks, so that makes it think like it's something we have to do. Um, but let's call them mini events that make us feel like we have space rather than suffocating, right? So what I like to think of, instead of that strict routine, choosing from like a very flexible menu. And I heard a podcast recently where a woman was talking about this, Lynn Wadsworth, and her take on it was a little bit different than mine, but I love the concept of this flexible menu. It's not a checklist, it's not about perfection, but it's picking one nourishing choice to begin the day with intention. So with these routines that we were just talking about, it kind of can feel like you're running a marathon, right? But these nourishing choices actually kind of help us just kind of skip out the door because we don't have a lot of expectations. So what could they be? Simple things. Before you get out of bed, take 5 slow, deep breaths, right? Rather than, okay, you wake up and hit the ground running. I've been known to do that. Those are not great days for me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Been there, done that. Let's not continue that. So again, one of the things that I enjoy doing is saying out loud 3 things that I'm grateful for. And I actually I do tend to do this at night before I go to bed as well, the gratitude piece, because when you wake up in the morning, I'm grateful that I woke up. I'm grateful that the sun is shining. I am probably not really grateful that the snow is starting to accumulate, but anyway, um, and it just starts your morning in a positive way, in a positive mindset. To be a big deal. You could be really grateful for that cup of coffee that's brewing because you pressed the button to make it overnight, like, timed it so it'll be ready when you're, or in my house, my coffee maker's name is Mark. He's pretty good about that. Right? Simple things, one of the things I always like to do is like, thank you for this day. Thank you for this breath. Thank you for this morning. Like, those are 3 things really quickly that I'm grateful for that I just thank God, universe, divine for. How long did that take me?
Mm-hmm.
Less than 10 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
When we do this in the morning and we start our day with this, not just the mindset, but the calming of our nervous system, right? Nervous system and stress is such a challenge with us in this day and age. I know Ariel mentioned about politics and the way things are kind of happening all the time, in the news, on social media. And we may not realize it, especially if we try to avoid some of it or at least limit it, it's still affecting us and are
Mm-hmm.
affecting our nervous system. And there's no wonder why our cortisol levels are through the roof.
Right.
right?
And
That
the
and
algorithm, no matter, whenever you click on something, the algorithms are working against you because they're feeding you something you might
Mhm.
have clicked on. And now all of a sudden you're overfeeding and you don't even realize that you have. One word that you used, and I want to bring it back. I think it's really important as you're going through and choosing these things to do. And I love this menu piece because you haven't set any requirements of completion, but you use the word intention. So you can choose your, if you're going to choose your three things that you're grateful for, you're listing them off, right? Or, or you're thoughtfully listing them. I found I was doing affirmations for quite a while and it was really productive. But at some point in time, it became, like you already mentioned, list driven. And so there was less intention behind the words that were created originally to do something.
Absolutely. I have a friend here locally who had been working with a coach, who was working with a business coach, and he had an affirmation that was like a paragraph. And
Hmm.
he could rattle it off. If you asked him
Hmm.
about his affirmation, he would say, I'm Dr. Fred Flintstone and blah, 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 blah. This is what I do. This is who I am. I'm great. I'm wonderful. Blah, 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 blah. And he would go on for like a minute and a half. And I was like, after a while, I don't think he just, it was memorized. So it was just something he said.
Hmm.
It kind of
Right.
took the meaning away from it.
Yeah. That's that
Yeah.
intention piece.
Hmm.
The internalizing of the message. It wasn't coming from inside, it was coming from outside.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. There we go. Outside incident. Um,
Yeah.
couple
But
of things.
making this, let's talk about the menu piece. So making a list of the things that would be great to add to your morning routine. And then when you're waking up in the morning and when you're getting up, here are the couple that I'm going to choose to do today.
Right. Morning menu, not morning routine.
Hmm. Right.
Right. So a couple of other things. If you actually have to wait for your coffee or tea to brew, this is a good time to stretch. I do that. I'll do some push-ups against the counter. You got to wait for it to boil, the water to boil, right? And so that gives me time. Um, the nice thing is I don't need to change my clothes. I can do that in my PJs. I don't need a mat. I don't just, it's just movement. Now that instead of picking up the phone, which is always
Hmm.
right
Right.
there and starting to scroll, because that is going to kind of kind of like break the spell, so to speak.
Hmm.
Um, one of the things I think is important, well, two things that I think is important. Um, Morning sun in your eyes, no glasses,
Hmm.
because if yours are like mine, as soon as I go out, they get dark. Just take a minute to walk to the door, walk to the window. If the weather's nice and it's not snowing, walk outside and get sun in your face, in your eyes. One, it wakes you up, it's stimulating in a very gentle way, but a very refreshing way. It works with our circadian rhythm. There's a
Hmm.
science piece, right? Um, and if you have the time, go for a walk. I mean, it doesn't have to be long. Go for a 5 minute walk. Do this when the weather's nice. I'll walk up and down my deck. It's just, I'm still waiting for the coffee to brew,
Right.
right? Or
Yeah.
the tea. It's usually the tea that's brewing. Um, Once the tea or the coffee is ready, this one I think is for me is essential. And it's the one that Mark always messes up. I just want to sit for 5 minutes and drink my coffee in peace and in silence. And maybe it's in reflection. Um, Most of the time, it's just trying to be, just sit without having to talk, without having to think, without scrolling social media. Just holding that nice warm cup of coffee or tea and experiencing it. I mean, how long does it take before it starts to get cold? 5, 6 minutes? What a beautiful way to start the day. And you're going to drink your coffee anyway. So those are two things that I do on a regular basis. Like I said, unless it's Marcus home and he decides he wants to chat, because then I just kind of look at him like, coffee, I'll be right there. And he knows now that it's just a part of my morning. Um, and it's about being present. It's about starting the morning with a positive mindset. And it really is about calming our nervous system. A structured routine does not do that.
I like that. Morning menu. Wonderful. Denise, thank you. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jean.
Hello, everyone. This is Jenne Gallagher, Discover Rising Tides, and I want to just take a moment to talk about my friend, Denise Stegall. I am honored to call her as a friend, and I'm so grateful that she gives us her insight during our shows, each show, and talks about healthy living, eating real food. You hear Denise say, eat real food a lot. Well, she means it, and she knows what she's talking about. She is an amazing healthy living coach, curator at Living Healthy List. And if you ever have any questions about what is real food, why does it matter? How does that apply to me? How do I change? What do I need to do? How do I even create a healthy living shopping list? Make sure that you call her. She is your healthy living coach. And you can find her at healthylivinglist.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. My name is Jenne Gallagher, and thank you so much for being here. If you are listening to us on any of your favorite podcast platforms and you'd like to see our happy faces, swing on over to YouTube, like and subscribe. We'll be over there waiting for you. And I'm excited to introduce to you our guest today, Ariel Griglin. Hi, Ariel. How are you?
Hi, Jean. I gotta say, I don't think I knew your tagline, how the outside makes the inside better. And for my world, I like that.
Thank you. It does. And for my world, that actually makes me not be cranky.
I'm thinking outside body makes the
Oh, right.
inside better.
Yes, exactly. Because you can interpret that in many different ways. We've been here, it's been raining, well, a couple of days of really intensive rain where I am. And then I woke up this morning expecting rain and the sun was out and it was wonderfully cold out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to squeak in a walk and I feel so much better. So
Yeah,
that's my outside makes my inside better.
yeah, totally.
So Ariel, thank you so much for being here. And before we dive in, give us a little bit of your background and then we'll get started.
My background, I know we've had private conversations about
We
this.
have.
There's the short answer, there's the long answer.
You can choose whichever one you want.
The in-between answer is that I have been in the world of personal training for 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first got into this, I was competitive bodybuilding and I was training all of my clients exactly the way that I would train to prepare for bodybuilding shows. And in 2018, 2017 into 18, my whole world blew up, death and destruction. And that shifted not only my personal life, but my career quite a bit. So since then, I've really been working primarily with women in reversing chronic conditions, weight loss resistance, metabolic disorders. And as you and I have also discussed, I'm at another pivot point in leading more of women's retreats.
Yes, we're definitely going to talk about that as well. And how did what was it like for you going through this transition from being as physical as you were, getting in and changing how you were managing your business and focusing more on women? How was that transition for you, or what really led you to that?
Well, it's an interesting question because I can tell you there was a very particular moment after my divorce, and I'm just reconciling with all of these changes in my personal life. And at the time, I was used to training in the gym at least an hour, 6 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And very much of the mentality, if I'm not doing 6 days a week, an hour a day, I'm going to lose all of my gains.
Mm-hmm.
But I had just gone through this spiritual awakening that was founded on surrender.
Mm.
And I had immense emotional peace and inner healing from internal surrender to certain beliefs and ideologies, and allowing the process and the way that my life was unfolding. So it was an interesting moment when I realized, but surrender, or I might also describe it as non-resistance, mentally and emotionally. But then there was a moment that I realized I need to go get my workout in today, but that's resistance training. And
Oh,
I've just realized the power of non-resistance. And so it was a weird moment. And I knew that the answer wasn't to totally back off of resistance training, but it was a bit of the pendulum swing until finding center again.
that's an interesting correlation that that I don't know that I might have connected, but the word connects. And when you think about it, the concept connects as well.
Mm-hmm. So I guess I would say after that pendulum swing and coming back into center, what I realized is there's healthy resistance and non-healthy resistance. And the what was your line? How the outside makes the inside better. Resistance on the outside with my physical body going to at the gym makes the inside better, so I can embody non-resistance in relationships and client interactions and the ways that matter.
Oh, that's really interesting. So the pendulum swing portion is so normal when people are making a significant shift. And I've noticed it with clients that I talk to and even with, especially with myself, and that where you're at and then making those realizations and that shift and then really swinging far in the other direction before you find your center.
Mm-hmm. Contrast, right? That's how we learn. We don't know the idea of pleasure until we've experienced pain.
Ooh, I like that word, contrast. That's really interesting. I never put that together, but yeah, that really is. And then that self-direction, even though we might not realize we're self-directing, but that self-direction action that happens if we're listening to ourselves and our intuition to recognize it can help really find the center, but also figure out what that really looks like, because we don't know that as we're going through the process.
Yeah, there's an image. I wish I could show you all on the screen right now. Maybe later we could find a way to pull that up. But it's the medical insignia, the caduceus, with the two snakes wrapping around the rod, and then usually there's wings at the top. You know the image I'm referring to. That's the perfect visual representation of this idea of contrast. And there's two different snakes wrapping around this pole that can show pain and pleasure, or good and bad, or resistance and non-resistance. And when we ascend or evolve in our human experience, when we're flying in our highest nature, we see those wings and we're able to bring healing to the body.
Interesting. And so you went through this process and you found your center. How are things different? What changed for you?
That's a loaded question.
Right.
I'll tell you.
Or let me rephrase this. Let me give it a little bit more definite definition. So what changed for you, but how did that change really affect how you were, how did that change direct you in dealing with your clients?
Yeah, it changed every single thing about the way I view the world, about the way I think, the way I interact with everyone. Every single thing about my life changed from that moment. In terms of how it changed with my clients, I shared that I went from a very mechanical way of viewing the body and just, kind of moving the arm like a lever and understanding how the muscles work, to realizing there's much more than just this muscular system that we can touch and see. And there's a deeper interconnectedness. And so that allowed me to work with clients. The program I work with, we are addressing their brain, their immune system, their gut, their mind, their spirit, their cell. We're bringing harmony into all of those areas.
How does that work? Let's talk about that. Let's dive into that.
Well, it's a program that my now partner developed called the Metabolic Reboot. It's traditionally a 21-day program, and there's a lot of, I'll say, complex science in those 6 areas that I just mentioned, but it's broken down in a really simple to apply method. So for the exercise piece, we start with a 9-minute routine to ensure, again, coming back to this resistance, to ensure that the body's getting adequate recovery and we're not overtraining or creating any unnecessary stress on the body.
I can understand that. I'm good at the overtraining, stress in the body piece, as
Yeah.
I'm rebuilding right now after surgery. And I think it's one of the most frustrating, but hopefully enlightening processes that I've been through, because this is number 2.
Yeah.
um, One of the word that was coming up to me when you were talking, I'm kind of jumping around, so I apologize to absolutely everybody out there, but my brain is jumping around too, because when you were talking before, one of the words that came up to me was habits. So as you're talking to people and working with them through either the metabolic reboot or whatever program you're working, one thing that I find challenging for myself is, as I'm making changes, it's easy for me to be in a state where all of this makes sense. But when you take yourself back to your your own environment and those habits kick in, do you notice with people that it's difficult to either maintain what they've learned because those old habits seem to overcome? But that habits is the word that's coming to me as we're talking.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. And that gives me kind of a step in to dive in further to those 6 areas that I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And just again, drawing contrast the way that I used to work with my clients and being able to create not only more impactful change, but lasting and sustainable change. And 3 of those points that I mentioned were mind, spirit, and cell. So we know, and what we teach our clients in these programs is that the mind and the spirit dictate the health of the cell. And if there is any type of imbalance or dysfunction within the mind or spirit, that can show up as autoimmune-like conditions or a cell's inability to produce energy appropriately. There's a lot of different ways that it can express itself. So in bringing all of this back to habits, the mind and the spirit are important. And so we use certain journaling techniques or neuroplasticity techniques to rewire the brain, regardless of past patterns or past habits. We're reframing, rewiring, so that we not only change the health of the cell, but we change habits and a client or individual's ability to sustain the changes. So when we think about, I gave the example, moving the arm like a lever. When we go to the gym, we do a bicep curl, and we don't do one and say, okay, I'm done. I now have great big muscles. We do it over and over and over and over again. That's called repetitions.
Mm-hmm.
So the pathways within our brain wire and respond in that same manner through repetition. So we might choose, say, an I am statement, and we're writing and we're speaking and we're thinking them over and over and over, or we're getting clear on a certain desire and we're speaking that repetitively until we get to a point that it becomes embodied. It becomes their way of existence.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense, because there's so much noise in life. Or life creates noise. And when you're quiet and you're in a state of self, and in that, whether you're journaling or whatever you're doing, you're in that controlled environment, and it's easy to block out the noise. But once you step out of that comfort zone or that area, and it's like opening a door, well, opening a soundproof door. So you're in a room and it's soundproof and everything is controllable and quiet, and you can maintain your thoughts and your actions, and everything is just very controlled. But then you open that soundproof door, and in my mind I see just, it's like that old, way before you old Maxwell tape commercial where the guy's sitting in back in the chair and then the music is just coming at him. That's yeah, like
It's a
50
good
years
visual.
ago. It's a great commercial because it was like 50 years ago, if not more. But anyways, back when there were these things called cassette tapes. Anywho, but opening that soundproof door, right? And then life is just screaming at us, whether it's work or personal relationships, money, whatever that happens to be. And I can see how making that strong foundation of self is so important.
And very often when I'm working with women that are dealing with whether it's a thyroid issue, a blood sugar issue, high cholesterol, or just weight loss resistance in general, difficulty losing weight, society has led them to believe that they have to work harder to get the result. They have to keep pushing harder. They have to keep just putting in that hard work. And it's a total flip when we do our work together to realize, well, sometimes physically the body needs more rest and recovery with appropriate movement, but the hard work that push harder is up here. So your example, when you're sitting in that room, it's very easy when it's quiet or you've got meditation music on and no one's around. But as soon as that door opens and all that noise comes in, that's when you got to call on all of that strength. That's when I run to my journal and I'm, writing myself over and over and over again to keep my mind strong.
Can we talk about journaling for just a second? This is
Yeah.
like a super selfish conversation because I incredibly suck at journaling, and I tell my clients they should journal, and I also tell them that I'm really not good at it. So there's like a full disclosure. It's not do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. Well, kind of maybe, but as there's a disclosure happening. So journaling is super powerful. And I've heard so many different people talk about just write your thoughts. But there doesn't seem to be any there's not a lot of what you're talking about, which I think is more powerful, that repetition piece.
So it's interesting that you said I'm not a good journaler, because when I first started working with the metabolic reboot and guiding my clients through it, that was the piece that was easily pushed aside. And I remember as a kid,
Pushed aside like it never happens.
I remember as a kid, like people did diaries and I was like, what am I supposed to do? Like talk to it and not tell it my feelings? Like I felt weird doing it. So I want to start by saying that journaling never came natural to me. Never, ever, ever. So that's piece one. Piece two, when it comes to sitting down with pen and paper, yes, there is something really powerful between taking something from the brain, bringing it out into our hand, writing it on paper, reading it back. There's a loop that's taking place, and our brain is not only giving it, but it's receiving it. And there's a lot of different ways we can journal. Sometimes people will sit down and just use it as a cathartic release. And they vomit on paper, and then when they're done, they feel better, they got it out. What I mentioned in the metabolic reboot, although that has value, we're generally using it in a more formatted approach to rewire, to redirect the brain in a certain way. So to give you more specifics, you said I'm not a good journaler. And
well, there's a message to myself already because I'm telling myself I'm not good at it. I get that part.
Right. So when we say those words, I am, anything that comes after that becomes permanent. And our subconscious mind or the universe or the piece of paper, whatever you want to call it, is listening and says, okay, well, this person just told me I'm not good, so I will remain not good. Or in my might be I am diabetic, or I am overweight, or I'm lazy, or whatever those labels are. So
Yeah.
That's a really good starting point, is just recognizing what are those beliefs, what is the dialogue that we hold, and giving it a try without condition, without judgment, just letting yourself play with it.
Oh, that's interesting. So in the I am statements have always been to me more I don't know what the right word is, yogic maybe, versus what you just said. And it's hard to apply that yogic thought process to the I am statement for me, to life. Right? There seems to be a disconnect between whatever that happens, whatever that is or I can't find it. Sometimes I can't find that I am statement.
Okay, so let me guide you through something. This is what I would do with a client. We recognize I am not good at journaling is something that can limit you. But right now, if you were to say, I am a great journaler, how does that feel?
It could be, I can see it how it can be enlightening.
But it also doesn't quite feel true in this moment.
No, but one thing that did feel true when you were saying that before, when you were mentioning what I am diabetic, etc., what you just said, the thing that came to me is what I should be writing is I am rebuilding, because that is what I'm doing. But that's the word that came to me, and it was kind of like this huge light bulb. You didn't see the light bulb above my head because it happened.
But that's it. That's finding something that feels resonant for you right now. And I'll give
Yeah.
you an example. Sometimes, clients are looking at a very specific goal. They want to be 120 pounds. And so they start saying it or writing, I'm 120 pounds, I'm 120 pounds. But inside there's discord. They're like, well, I can act as if, but it's not quite true. So it's a workout up here, but eventually we come up with something that feels resonant, such as I am taking the steps needed to be at 120 pounds. You said something really powerful. I am rebuilding. I am healing.
Yeah, that makes so much more sense. And then from that statement can create the thought flow that becomes the words to the paper. And is there and I hope I'm not like derailing the whole conversation talking about journaling because I want to know more, but I'm thinking other people might as well. The but when you're saying I am rebuilding as the positive statement, what happens when you take a positive statement and toss in the written words of the things that are the discord? I love that word. The discord that comes with the challenges of doing the thing that you are. That even makes sense.
Give me an example.
I'll give you an example. I knew that sentence didn't make any sense at all. So the example is I am rebuilding. So I had hip surgery and now I am rebuilding again. And what came to me today is I feel like I've been doing this for 2 years because a little over a year and a half ago, I had the other one and I was rebuilt. And then, this all happened. So anyways, so here I am rebuilding again. And what comes to me after that, or what I feel like I should maybe scribe after that, is I am rebuilding, but I'm really frustrated. Or so do we have to be careful about saying the statement and then throwing the negative or less than positive thoughts afterwards? Or is it important to just unload those thoughts onto paper to get them out? But then the universe is listening to those thoughts.
I'm going to answer the question and then also just shed some light on how amazing this conversation is in consideration of the surgeries you've had and all of the conversations you and I have had previously. To answer the question, yes, we want to be cautious or careful or mindful of those limiting or negative I am statements. I have a whole teaching on the ABCs that we didn't learn when we were young, to always be considerate of the emotions and feelings that we have, but always be cautious of the thoughts. So you said, I am frustrated. That's a genuine emotion. We want to always be considerate of that emotion, but cautious of the belief and the statement and the identity that comes from that. So if we're being considerate of that emotion, ABC of the hearts, we might say, I feel frustrated. Feelings ebb and flow, feelings come and go, feelings don't bind us. I feel frustrated. And here's the permanent statement or the identity statement. I am rebuilding. I feel frustrated and I am rebuilding.
Oh, that's good. It reframes it. it gives a place for the feelings, but it reframes it in a more productive and positive manner.
Exactly.
I love that. Super helpful. So as let's talk about your process. Thank you for all of that, by the way. Talk about your
One more
process.
before we move
Oh,
on.
please. Yes, yes, yes.
It's so interesting. I think you know, and I've shared at different times, and I kind of see the world through chakras. And I'm not sure how familiar your listeners are with chakras. They're energy centers that run through the body. But you and I have had a lot of conversations about sacral, and
Mm-hmm.
you just had a hip surgery. That's the sacral chakra. The sacral chakra is our creative energy, and it's
Mm.
intrinsically connected to the throat chakra, which is, we can say physically it's the jaw, the neck, or the shoulders, but it's our expression, it's the written word. And so, because the two are so intrinsically connected, a challenge or symptom or pain in one area can affect the other, and healing in one area can affect the other. And so
You mean
often,
like the strep throat I had when like 2 weeks ago?
right? I was going to give you an example, but I don't even need to.
Oh,
Often,
like that?
often when I've worked with clients, if someone has had chronic low back pain, there's usually some type of repression
Hmm.
of their expression. They go hand in hand. So this whole conversation that we're having about the written word, hello, speaking on a podcast and expressing ourselves, that is healing for the hips. That is allowing that energy to move through.
Hmm. Hmm. It's so connected and it's so involved. And this is why everybody needs to talk to you, to be honest.
But you know what? And I will recognize that this is probably a bit of my uniqueness, but these things are happening in every moment of our day. When
Hmm.
we gain presence in the conversation that we're having right here, or any experience in our day, it's all happening for us to guide us through our inner universe, our inner experience, our pains, our symptoms, our healing, all of it.
Hmm. So as you're um, working with clients and helping them find their pathway, what's that process?
So with the metabolic reboot, it is a one-on-one
Mm-hmm.
experience. They're guided through a very structured program over 21 days. They're really learning. It's based on 42 principles. So these are, I say it's like a Bible of the body. These are truths that will exist always and forever. So they're learning these truths about the body. I'm guiding them through changes with their food, with their mindset, with their movements. But I mentioned I'm going through a shift yet again, and these women's retreats that I've been holding are very much related to this energy of throat and sacral,
Mm.
this creative expression. And you know, there's a lot going on in our world right now. There's a lot of upheaval, and simply put, I can say it's a major transformative time. Transformation is the hip, it's that sacral chakra. So I've been guided to bring women together specifically for this purpose of evolving our creative expression.
Mm. The so let's break down the retreat or what that brings. And but I before we do that, that's my intention, but I need to stop for just a second. And evolving, you just said something and I missed evolving the
Creative expression.
creative expression. Thank you. Um, can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, there's a lot of ways that I can point to this and give examples of this. If we look to the global stage or our political world, truth is highly sought after right now. And there's robots and AI galore. Nobody knows if
Mm.
they can the media. So truth, again, coming back to this expression center of the throat, is up close right in front of our face right now.
Mm.
So as we're going through this transformation, I said creative expression, it's kind of a birthing, if you will, of truth. And to get to the truth, we've got to sort through all the mess and the muck of it. If we take that more specifically to women, for centuries and centuries, women's voices have been repressed. Mm-hmm. And one way that I see that show up physically, you mentioned a few weeks ago, would you say mono or strep throat that you had?
Strep throat, yeah.
A majority of women over the age of 35 have some type of thyroid imbalance. I see it so often, whether it's diagnosed or not. That's the throat. It makes sense because female voices have not fully been heard for many, many, many centuries.
Mm-hmm. Interesting correlation.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the thought or the theme of the retreat, and how does that work towards this enlightenment, and also the becoming lighter piece we need to talk about as well?
Yeah, my business name is Becoming Lighter, which has many reasons or many different meanings to it. We step on the scale, we might see that we're lighter in that regard. We might realize that we're lighter in the hearts. So these retreats are meant to be a very immersive experience of becoming lighter. So I've really created an environment for the women that sheds any, I could say, heaviness or toxicity. So the foods that they're eating are pure natural foods. They're leaving all toiletries and fragrances and products at home. I provide very clean products in that regard. It's device free, so we're not involved in technology during the experience. We're moving our bodies, we're meditating. So really from every touch point, it's about light. It's about coming back to source energy and getting connected with our life force. So I find that when that space is created, magic happens, and whatever each individual at that retreat is there to experience naturally unfolds. Coming back to this whole creative expression and throat and sacral energies, that just happens to be what I see playing out on the global stage, or the collective energies.
Interesting. And what have you seen? Can you give us an example of a transformation that's happened before and after the retreat?
Yeah, I had one woman who attended it was just a weekend, a 3-day retreat. And she called me up about 2 days before it was time to fly out. And she was pretty upset. And she told me she'd just suffered a loss, a miscarriage.
Oh.
And when she booked her ticket for the retreat, she obviously had no idea that this was going to happen. So not only did she participate and leave and say, I didn't realize how much I would need this and how therapeutic it had been, but it also came to surface that she had been dealing with a 20-year OCD condition. And it was getting severe to the point that she couldn't just take her kids out of the tub anymore. She was tapping her kids. And through this 3-day experience, she realized that there were certain experiences in her childhood of sensing when someone was about to transition. She knew when her grandmother was about to pass, and it frightened her, and she shut it down. And because of, we can say, shutting down the gifts or closing off her doorway to light or to the breather, this OCD condition was a side effect.
Interesting.
So this
it was like it was knocking on the door.
Exactly. Exactly. So this loss that she had suffered just days before brought all of that to surface. I'm getting like such goosebumps right now to really take a look at this gift and this way of connecting to light, her unique way of connecting to the light. And she walked away after a 3-day retreat, never having OCD again.
Isn't that incredible?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And being able to have the environment and the resources to, and the quiet to recognize everything that she had been through to connect the dots.
Mm. It's
Wow.
interesting coming back to the quiet, and you said like the door flooding open and all the noise coming in. We can view that audibly, other people's words coming in or in our chatter, but that noise comes in a lot of different ways.
Mm.
And
How so?
when I said creating an environment that is pure of toxins or of devices, I mean, you know, we pick up these things and in a moment's notice, I could see a million different voices.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention the frequency and the Wi-Fi and the 5G and all of that.
Mm-hmm. And um in I'm stuck on fragrances right now. That's very noticeable to me. And especially I was out on the trail on Sunday, and this happens all the time, and it's amazing as people pass you going in the other direction. There's this cloud of
Yeah.
smell that happens, and and that's just the air that's passing by me that they've emitted, if you will, right? And I'm thinking every time it happens, I'm thinking, you know, body sweat smells much better than the dryer sheets that you happen to be using. But that environmental toxicity that happens for us on a regular basis, and we don't even know it, or don't realize it. It's this is like a whole nother hour of a conversation that we're not going to have, and we're just kind of touching on it because I'm tossing it out there. But there's so much out there in the world that we don't understand or we're not in control of, and that brings the importance of practitioners like you to be able to stop the conveyor belt and bring awareness to these other areas and how they might be affecting us, and not just mentally affecting us. I think that the most important part here too is that you've touched on, and we didn't really dive into it, which there's probably not enough time, or we need to have a second conversation of how this affects us medically in many different ways. Not that we're giving medical advice. However, there's a cause and effect.
Yeah, there's a lot we could expand on. And I think for time's sake and for today, I could just wrap a lot of this, a pretty
Mm-hmm.
little around all of it and bring it together. I'll start with a quick story. This was maybe around the time period of 2020. The supplement company that I worked with had just developed a new detox protocol. So AM, PM capsules, I was giving it a try. It's a 10-day detox that I was using in addition to all of my other lifestyle habits. And it's not something that you necessarily feel like a burst of energy. So, you know, through 10 days, I'm like, am I noticing anything? I'm not quite sure. But there was a moment I walked into Walgreens, and exactly what you just said to me, someone walked past me. And not only was there, I think it was a man, his cologne was so strong,
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't even smell pleasant. Like I smelled the chemicals of it. And I
Mm-hmm.
knew immediately after that, my cells are cleaner. The toxins coming out of my cells, therefore my senses are heightened. And this is my pure state. So yes, there's a lot more that we can touch on, but just bringing it back to becoming lighter, our pure state is light. And yes, anybody listening, I'm happy to have conversations about what we can do physically to improve your cells and your biology and make it a cleaner environment. But something as simple as envisioning white light coming through the body can help purify and protect from the bombardment of toxins that we live in.
Mm. Yeah, because anything that we can do to preserve ourselves and our well-being is so important. Um, how do people get in touch with you, Ariel?
You can go to my website, which is
Mhm.
arielgriglin.com. You can find me on Instagram, Ariel_Griglin, or you can find me on Facebook.
And that there's information on your retreat is there.
Yep.
And anything else that they should be looking for on your website that would be informative that
Actually, thank you for reminding me. If you go to my website, arielgriglin.com, you'll see that you can schedule a complimentary quantum biofeedback session, which there's a lot I can explain about that, but it's a really interesting, energetic insight of the body. And Jeanne, you did it. Is there anything you
I
want to
did.
mention
I
about it?
did. Um, it was an incredible experience. And it's difficult to put it into words, but it's amazing how right it felt.
Yeah.
And the connection and the conversation, you are very intuitive and you do a great job leading that portion and personalizing it as well. I was, it was wonderful. And that's a terrible word to put on something so impactful.
Go to my website. There's a whole page explaining what it is. It's an energy reading, and we could look at things from your organs, your body systems, your spinal energy, your chakras, your aura, your neurotransmitters, all kinds of stuff. So take a look, and if you're interested, you can schedule it.
That's fantastic. Ariel, thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time and going on tangents with me as we stroll through the woods of Tangent Land. And I appreciate the conversation and what you're offering and how you are giving people the tools themselves to also become lighter.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show is sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, it's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me, and if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.